guys, I'm going to be honest with you, he taught me how to make my own turkey calls, and it was a mouth call. He taught me how to make them out of lead. But how did he learn how to do that? Well, he picked it up at Mardi Gras in Mobile, Alabama. And it was a guy down there on the streets selling bird whistles. And the guy was selling, and he was making all kind of sounds with that bird whistle, and some of them sound like turkeys. And my grandfather and another guy, Mr. Radcliffe, and they said, man, I think, we could look at that and see if we can't modify it some and make a turkey call out of it. So in 1929, they made their first mouth call.
So you just got back from Florida?
I just got back from Florida, had a great hunt. I took my 6-year-old grandson, his name is Clark, and that was number 4. He killed his 4th turkey, a double-beard gobbler, that we ended up killing Saturday afternoon.
Really?
Yep.
How old is he?
He's 6.
Dude.
He killed 2 when he was 4, killed 1 when he was 5, and then this one here made number 4.
Man, you aren't able to tell him a dang thing.
Oh no, he's learned. He won't never, he won't never amount to a whole lot.
Man, I never killed a double-bearded turkey. I've been doing it for a while.
You didn't kill a turkey at 6 years old either, let alone 4.
No, I didn't kill a turkey till I was probably like 16 years old at least.
I think I was close to 10 when I killed my first one, and so man, I'm 71 years old, and I have seen a lot of. Like the old guy said, there's been a lot of water on the bridge all them years right there. But, but it's been exciting, and I've loved every day of it.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Mr. Eddie Salter, I'm thrilled to death to be sitting here in front of you right now.
Well, man, I appreciate y'all coming down to Evergreen, Alabama, home of Conecuh sausage. Man, I love that Conecuh sausage. And, I go all over the world, and, they sell it all over. And I ask people, have you ever had any Conecuh sausage? And you'd be surprised how many people have really like it. I said, well, that's our county. That's our county seat is Conecuh. And so, it's right here in Evergreen, Alabama, about 3.5 miles from right here.
Yeah, and when I leave here, I'm going straight there, and I'm getting me a bunch of it.
All right, well, man, that's awesome.
I'm their biggest fan.
Hey, one thing too, they got a display rack there that's got Turkey Man turkey calls on it. And,
really?
Yeah, they probably sell. Well, I no doubt they sell more turkey calls than Marks or. A lot any of these, Reynolds over there in Opelika. I see you got, what kind of hat you got on?
Auburn.
Auburn. I wanted to pick at you because that's the reason I said Reynolds right there at Opelika. Have you ever been in that sporting goods?
Oh yeah,
man,
I spent some money in that store.
Oh yeah, then Walter Craig's out of Montgomery right there are all good customers of mine. But man, it's been a good ride for me. And it started, right here where we sitting at, guys. Matter of fact, right where we at right now, we used to, when I was a young boy, we planted cotton here. And I've actually hoed it with a hoe. I've actually picked it with my hands. And, I've seen a lot of things happening right there. And, as a young boy, I get asked, so many times, how did you get started when you was a young boy? And it all started for me. It's a lot of times I like to relate to that because my parents lived right down this little gravel road right here, and I used to have to walk this gravel road to catch the school bus right out here on Highway 83, and because they couldn't turn the bus around there. But as a young boy, this started when I was 6 or 7 or 8 years old right there. I would stand out there in the morning waiting on the bus, and I could hear an old barred owl off in the distance. And I could hear an old turkey gobble while I'm waiting on the school bus many times. And so, you know, that piqued my interest up because I love to hunt. And I like to squirrel hunt. We shot doves. And, you know, for a lot of years right there, I wouldn't even take a gun. I was a designated vine shaker when my daddy, we had little feist dogs or mountain cur type dogs that would tree squirrels. And I would follow behind him. Them dogs would tree a squirrel. And I'd have to shake a vine to move that squirrel where he could see how to shoot him. And I'll never forget, I probably learned the most important lesson in my life in the squirrel woods. And because we had one of them little old dogs his name was Riley, and a little old red with a curly tail, and he was a great dog. But if you shot a squirrel out, and if he grabbed that squirrel, it may be 15 minutes before you got him away from him. And it made me so mad. I'd run around trying to get that squirrel. And but he shot my dad. I shook the vine, and he shot a squirrel out. And I went running over to grab that squirrel. I was wanting to beat that dog over there where we wouldn't have to chase that dog for 15 minutes, excuse me. And he said, "Don't do that, son." He said, "Don't run, grab that squirrel." He said, "You're going to grab a hold of one that ain't completely dead, and he's going to grab you." And I said, "Yes, sir." And it didn't even, I didn't even slow up. And we went on. It wasn't hardly 15 minutes later, he treed again. I shook the vine, and that squirrel come out of there, and I grabbed him. When I did, he grabbed me right here, and I'll never forget. And we like to never got him off my finger, right? I mean, actually my hand right there. And but you know, from that day forward, let me get my words right. From that day forward, anytime my daddy told me not to do something, boy, that squirrel was the first thing. Or as far as that goes, anybody tells me don't do something, that squirrel still sticks in my brain up there in that computer. Don't do it. And but anyhow, it's been, like I was telling you, I fell in love with, the small game hunting. And then, on Saturday mornings, we had a pasture back there where we kept cows in. And on Saturday mornings, I'd go out there really, around the end of February or 1st of March. And we had turkeys that was coming in that field every day, morning and afternoon. And I could hear turkeys, early in the morning, the owl hoots. And matter of fact, I could hear an old cow. It was amazing for me. Anything that made a loud noise, that old turkey would gobble at him. And, and the reason that he was gobbling at him, and I didn't know it at that particular time, is, he's telling them hens, "Hey, here I am, girls, right here. Y'all come see me, and don't leave me now." And about that time, them old hens were, they started hitting out there like bombers in the field. And they'd hit out there. And old gobbler, he would be the last one before, the hens would all hit, and then his feet, he'd come down, and his feet hit the ground, and he would bow up, and he would strut. If you close enough, you'd hear him do that little exhaling, drumming sound. And his tail fan just vibrate when he does that. Because if you're close enough, you can just see him shake and move. And that's a ritual. I didn't know, what is he doing? And what is them hens, when they cackling and cutting and yelping, what are they telling that turkey? Are they telling him that they love him? Or what's turning his motor on, making him gobble? And guys, I couldn't understand that. Now these youngsters don't know how lucky they are. They can go out there and they can get, they can watch TV shows or YouTube or, go rent videos, so many different things. They can get started turkey hunting, and, these calls, the cackle and the cutting, we explain what they mean and all that. I didn't know that. And, it reminded me of back then, the old Volkswagen Beetle. It was old black Volkswagen, and I remember named Beetle. And that's what that old gobbler looked like. He looks like a Volkswagen out there in that back field with both doors open up when he was bowed up strutting. And I also learned how to be a caretaker of the property. And because I had to feed the cows, we had pigs, chickens, and actually at that time we didn't have any turkeys, but anyhow, later on I learned the more corn that I fed them cows, the more turkeys I seen, and the longer they stay out in the back of the field. So I learned a lot about managing and how to keep turkeys in your field as a young boy and not really knowing it. But I was asking a lot of questions about turkey hunting, how I get started, and my daddy, he didn't know no more than I did, and but I kept asking him, and he said, well, I'm gonna go buy a box call today. I'm gonna go down to the hardware. Well, he went down to the local hardware store and bought a box call, and it was a Lynch box call. And he brought that box call out there and give it to me. So look, this is gonna be yours and mine, but here it is. And he said, you read all the instructions and everything. And I remember reading them instructions on that box call, and it says, yep, 3 times. If the turkey answers, you put the box call down and get your gun ready and don't call no more. And I must have read that 1,000 times because, guys, I was starving to death for information. What do I do? Back then, there was 4 or 5 turkey hunters in this whole county that I live in, Conecuh County. And back then, them old-timer guys would not share any information with you. They didn't want you out there in the woods. They was like if you went to the woods with them, they would blindfold you. They didn't want you to know where they were hunting at. And and they wouldn't dare tell you nothing. But I was lucky enough. My grandfather, he was actually lived in Bay Minette, Alabama, and which is about an hour and 10 minutes or so from right here in Baldwin County. And back in the 60s, guys, when I was really starving for information, he was a terrific turkey hunter. But I never did get the chance to spend no time with him because, except for Christmas. And I would aggravate him to death asking him questions. And he actually, guys, I'm going to be honest with you, he taught me how to make my own turkey calls. And it was a mouth call. He taught me how to make them out of lead. And you get this lead that goes up under shingles, like if you go in the bathroom, the pipes that go up, ventilation pipes, and they had a sheet of lead that went up under the shingles or the tin that was real flimsy that you could fold over, and that's what he would take that piece of lead and flatten it out a little bit more and then fold it over, and then he'd put a piece of latex in there, and then he would put tape around it. But, that's what he showed me how to do. But how did he learn how to do that? Well, he picked it up at Mardi Gras in Mobile, Alabama. That's where a lot of the original Mardi Gras, it wasn't New Orleans. The original would come out of Mobile. And it was a guy down there on the streets selling bird whistles. And the guy was selling, and he was making all kind of sounds with that bird whistle. And some of them sounded like turkeys. And my grandfather and another guy, Mr. Radcliffe, they were buddies, and they said, man, I think, we could look at that and see if we can't modify it some and make a turkey call out of it. So in 1929, they made their first mouth call. So my granddaddy was one of the first engineers. It might have been other people, but he was telling me that he learned it from that guy at Mardi Gras, and he took it, and they took that lid that I was talking about coming off that roof jack, and they folded it over. And what they do is you fold it over, and you take a pocket knife and you cut it out like a horseshoe that'll fit between your teeth. And then you cut the middle of it out. You horseshoe the middle of it out. Then you open it back up and you put a piece of latex in it, dental down, and or prope. And it was your latex back then. And he showed me how to do that. And I got football tape. I got tape from Johnson & Johnson that they used to wrap your ankles with from the coach at where I went to high school, and that's how I started making my own mouth calls. And when I was, I don't know, probably 12 years old, the first turkey that I called it up with an orange balloon. I put a piece of orange balloon in there as my latex because I couldn't get my hands on some probe or some other things. So I was so young. I was, was ashamed to try to buy that. So that's why I used orange balloon, and I put that football tape on it and killed my first turkey that I called up. Now I bushwhacked me and my daddy. We bushwhacked my first turkey. We did not call him up, and we went down that old Lynch box call, and we'd call. The turkey would fly down. He'd gobble, but him old hens, they'd take him off, and he was gone. All right, well, then the next morning we'd go down to the way they went the next morning, and we set up there and called, and they'd go right where we were at the morning before. And this went on several days, and finally my dad said, look, we're gonna outsmart them today. He said, you take my gun. I've been using a 410. And he said, you take my gun, the old 12 gauge model. It was old Remington model 48. It was an automatic, a 4800. And he said, you go down there beside that old road that goes to a pond down there and sit on a log, put that gun on that log and just kind of, hide real good. And he said, if them turkeys fly down out there, and I'm going to call to them up here, and then if they run away from us like they've been doing, they'll run over the top of you. And sure enough, that's what happened. And I shot my first turkey and didn't realize I'd probably killed him till 5 minutes later, just about because I had that old 48 model Remington sitting up there when I shot. My thumb come up and hit me, busted my nose, hide off it, and blood's in my eye, but I killed that turkey. And I was hooked after that, guys. It was all over. And, so it started from hearing the turkeys gobble and getting excited about it. But, I know I'm running my mouth a lot. I ain't give y'all a chance to talk and ask any questions. But the single most thing that helped me the most was my mother knew, because of her daddy. She had heard them talk about it and all that. And she come from a family of 14. She was the oldest one. And she eat a lot of turkeys. And they were killing turkeys to eat back then just about, because it wasn't a whole lot going on. Because she was actually born in 29. She was born in 29, all that depression and all that stuff. But she watched her daddy walk around and listen to them turkeys, and my granddaddy learned to call from turkeys. He didn't have nothing to teach him. So she bought me 2 hens and a gobbler. And so I started, and it wasn't long, my daddy, right after she bought them, my daddy run over a nest of eggs with a bush hog, and we put them under a chicken hen and hatched them out. And it was 11 of them, and we raised all 11 wild turkeys. And of course, we lived out here on the farm. We didn't have them in a pen. They walked around just like they were wild, do what they wanted to do. But every one of them made it. And so I learned from tame turkeys and wild turkeys. And I watched them lay eggs. They'll lay, on the average 11 eggs. And they'll sit on them eggs 28 days. And, I learned that old hen. I learned a lot from watching the turkey. I learned that old hen, she would sit on them. And I think, I know what she was doing. She would talk to them eggs like 4 or 5 days. She'd start talking a little bit more aggressive. And she would call under her breath. Not real loud. Because just think about it, most of them were laying eggs. They wasn't in a brooder or in the hay barn. They were laying eggs on fence rows and different things where we had cotton and everything out here, just like a wild turkey. I mean, they were doing their own thing, and we'd hatch them off. And we learned when they hatched off that we had to pick them up and put them in a brooder, because it was something about it. If a big rain would come along, every one of them would be piled up dead out there. I don't know it's been a statement made that, man, a turkey's so crazy, he'll sit there with his mouth open and drown. Well, I found out later on what it is. It's all to do with the thermal temperature. If that temperature drops about 15 degrees at a period of time, he can't handle that. Little baby turkey can't handle that thermal, and it'll kill him. And that's more of the thing that we were having problem with, the turkeys getting wet like that. But if we kept them in a brooder and we get them up there size as big as a chicken hen, and we could turn them out, and they would do real good after we turned them out like that. And I kind of learned how to call turkeys, but I basically become a biologist on studying turkeys. because that's what I was doing. I'd study them turkeys, and I learned, back then, I watched them lay the eggs, and the other turkeys would be out in the edge of the field, and they'd be feeding like wild turkeys or what. But as soon as that hen come off that nest, boy, she would be aggressive calling, and I called it back then. I called it myself. I gave it a running cackle. I didn't know what she was doing, but what it was, she was cutting, and she was excited. Where are you? I'm looking for you. And she was being real vocal. And that old gobbler, here we are over here. And, I learned to use that call right there in the woods. I learned to basically do an excited cut and doing like that. What I watched that turkey trying to get back with the other turkeys. And boys, I'm going to tell you, I've killed a lot of turkeys like that. But let me back up a minute. I'm going to tell y'all some stuff I ain't never talked about a whole lot, but it's just like that old setting hen that I was telling you about talking. She's imprinting to them turkeys. She's telling them, and a lot of times right after they hatch off for the first week, she won't let them hardly get 3 or 4 feet away from her right there, and she's like she's calling under breath. And look, guys, why would she want to really hammer and hold her, beak up real high and say, look, here I am. I'm a meal right over here. I got my little ones right here. She just wants to talk to them and imprint to them. And guess what? When I had old turkey out there at 75 yards and wouldn't come in, I've done that old imprinting call right there like that I learned years ago. Boop, that turkey's broke and come in there to me, and I was lucky enough to shoot some. So, I learned so much from turkeys herself, and a lot of times I'm out in the woods, I'm hunting, and I make calls that I heard back when I was, 60 years ago when I was a boy. I heard them turkeys make them. Why I do it, I don't know. I can't tell you why. It's just something that, it's just like throwing a baseball, I guess. It's something that you learn instinctively, and I just learned to call that way. And it's helped me over the years, I got criticized so much when I was with Hunter Specialties because I talked about a call that it was when a gobbler is mating a hen, it don't all the time happen, but it's a squealing. We named it the squealing hen call, and people thought it was a joke, but it didn't happen on every hen that he bred. But a lot of the turkeys, when they go to breeding hens, he'll get on them, and a lot of times they going through that ritual, and they may sit there and stomp that hen for 3 or 4 minutes before they breed her. I think he's trying to get her body just like it needs to be. But that hen, I guess, with that extra weight on, she'll really be just like you. If you actually catch her, or if you catch a chicken, they'll just squeal. And I call that the squealing hen, and we developed a call and must have sold several $1 million worth of Hunter Specialties, but it was called the squealing hen. And guys, I have killed turkeys and called up turkeys with that. I went to Nebraska. We were hunting Nebraska. We was hunting. It was actually some Rios and Marions crossed out there, and we were calling and it wasn't working. And I went to using that squeal, and guys, they would break. And we killed everybody. I killed everybody in camp with that squealing hen call. They were just, and we got it on video. I mean, it's pretty neat like that. And, it's just something, and that's what I want to, people, if it's listening, don't be scared to try new things out there. I learned to, and I'm one of my thing that I always talk about in my seminars is basically learn to use multiple calls. I mean, don't go out there and just one turkey call with a slate call. I know you talked about using a pot call, slate call. Don't go. Learn to use a mouth call and learn to use both of them. Or if y'all hunting together, one of you call and the other call. And make that old gobbler think he's got 2 girlfriends up there instead of one. And create, sometimes I may run and sound like 3 different turkeys all at one time.
So there's so much there. There's a lot there.
One thing I do want to bring up,
Okay.
Eddie, is your granddad.
Okay.
Your grandfather.
Yeah.
You said that he met this gentleman in 1929.
That's it.
That had some kind of diaphragm looking call that he was able to kind of turn into, almost like one of the first diaphragm calls. over the years of you spending Christmases with him, which is sounds
Yeah,
like
and
when
that's
you got,
basically what it was. And he, that's where I picked his brain out, and that's where I didn't fill up. I mean, I spent time with him, but I never did hunt with him.
So, well, one thing I want to ask you about, what information did you ever get from him about how did he turkey hunt back then?
Okay.
Like, what was it like? What did he give you? What did he tell you about back then?
I'm gonna tell you, hunting with not hunting with, but talking to my granddaddy, he told me to pick you a big tree out that would help break your outline and set out in front of it. I remember when I first started, I wanted to hide. I wanted to get in the thickest spot. But when a turkey come in, sometimes I was even laying down as a young boy. I was wanting to hide from that turkey. But he taught me to, actually back then, he would take a pair of khaki pants. And I've seen him, he'd take a can of spray paint and spray his, stripes on his khaki pants. And, he really didn't, he used a cap and he'd keep that cap down. But, back then, guys, we were talking about 29 when back then, he this was early 60s. He wasn't even using a head net. Well, I don't even know if you could buy a head net, but anyhow, I remember seeing some of the first head nets that come out. But anyhow, he told me, he said, get your gun on your knee and be ready for him, or make you a blind. He taught me, he said, that blind will help you a lot if you go out there and make you a blind. He actually had a big sharp pocket knife he kept with him. He would cut him some dogwood trees and some pine limbs, and he would make him it where you stick it up, stick him dogwood limbs down and break it. And reason I'm saying that, to give him opportunity to move his gun from one side to the other. But he also told me, he said, well, you sit against that tree. He said, if you use if that turkey's gobbling straight away from you, just straight up, he said, turn your left shoulder right where that turkey's at, because what you'll do is you'll have your gun on your knee right here. Keep your gun on your knee at all times and be ready. If you can, keep it up under your shoulder on your knee. And if that turkey comes in a little bit to your left over here, you can move that knee a little bit. Or if he comes into the right a little bit, where if you straight up and you're looking at that turkey and you got your shoulder over here and you got your gun over here, if that turkey happens to come to your right, you're going to have to move your whole body over there, and you ain't going to be able to kill him. Or if you got that blind, it might give you a little chance to move your gun. But now look, not many people talk about it, but I'm going to say almost 3 out of 5 times, a lot of times I kill turkeys at 10, 11 o'clock. And I know that's been talked about a lot, but what I was going to say is, learning from my grandfather about building that blind I'm telling you about, a lot of times I go into the woods and I fool a turkey that morning and he's henned up and he just eased on off. And then, you walking through the woods, you learn to read sign, and you see a lot of scratching all around, and turkeys are using that area. Well, go ahead. I have actually went through the woods on several different areas. Going, moving and covering and make 4 or 5 blinds, but I would go in there at 10 o'clock. I got me a blind made, set up at 10 o'clock. Sit there and do some series of calls, and I'd wait and do a series of calls. But this is what I wanted to tell you. 3 out of 5 times, now this is pretty stout, 3 out of 5 times, a turkey would come in that didn't gobble. All at once, 3 out of 5 times. You hear one drum, and you trying to figure out where he's drumming at. You don't know where it's at, but he's back close enough to shoot. And so that's the importance of being able to move freely. And, of course, if you got a kid, I'd say put up a big blind out there where he can enjoy it. But if you go, and if you don't kill anything right there or shoot anything there in, 45, 50 minutes or so, I'm pretty aggressive. I'm going to move to my next location and maybe sit there a little bit and move to my next location. I'm going to constantly be aggressive and move a little bit. If I hadn't done anything, I'm going to say probably in 45 minutes, I'm going to be out of there.
All right, guys, we got another in the field tip for you today. One thing we're doing right now while we're out here scouting is looking at overlooked spots and overlooked by us. One thing we always do while we're in the field is using our tracker on Onyx Hunt to be able to not only see where we've gone, but where we haven't been, and that's what we're going to go look at. So today, We're actually going to work up into a drainage that we haven't been to before. We've walked all around it, but we haven't been up in it. And again, it's a very important factor of using the tracker so you can see where you have been and where you haven't. A lot of times those places you haven't been is your overlooked spots. So if you want to try Onyx Hunt, you can download Onyx Hunt today and use the code SOUTHERN and save 20% on your membership. Hey guys, it's Jake from the podcast. Got a quick tip for you when it comes to turkey calling, especially if you're a newer turkey hunter that's not as experienced, and that is using covert calling that we learned from Coach Ron Waters last year out of Alabama. And that's what helped us kill 9 birds in Alabama between 3 of us. And again, a lot of those on public land. You don't have to be a great caller like I mentioned, and all it is super soft calling at like a 20 to 30, maybe 40% volume level when it comes to calling. I really like a friction call to do that, doing soft clucks, purrs, and yelps. So working that in along with scratching the leaves worked extremely well for me last year, along with my brother Thomas, and then even Andrew. So again, covert calling can really work for you. It's also nice to have a call that you have a lot of control over, especially at lower volume levels. And that's where the Dixie Hen custom ceramic pot call from Houndstooth Game Calls really works out great for me. I love this call. Again, it helped me kill 8 birds in Alabama, or be part of 8 birds dying in Alabama, 4 from me and 4 from Thomas. Then Andrew also killed one using the Dixie Hen custom ceramic. If you want to check it out, go to houndstoothgamecalls.com and use the code SOUTHERN25 for a discount on your order. Really love these calls, guys. I think you'll enjoy it too this spring.
So it might be the off season, but we're still always thinking about whitetails. And if you're looking to get more mobile this fall and you're looking at saddle setups, the 2 most common designs you're gonna see are a single panel design or a double panel design. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. A single panel design is gonna be more comfortable right out of the box, while a double panel design is gonna be much more adjustable and customizable to your fit. We always say on the podcast, saddles are kind of like boots. Different people are going to like different things. As a general rule of thumb, I found that heavier set guys typically like a single panel more than they like a double panel. But other than that, it's just really a matter of preference. I personally use both of these saddles. This is the Method 2 from Latitude, and this is the Lone Star from Latitude. I will say that the Method 2 is really nice because it's a 2-panel design. It's almost like you have a built-in back band that'll take a little bit of pressure off your back when you're sitting down. But if you're just getting into saddle hunting and you want something that's extremely comfortable right out of the box, the Lone Star is going to be your go-to. It has an advanced hip pinch reduction system in it, so right out of the box, this is going to be very comfortable, and you're not going to have the hip pinch issues that a lot of people have when they first get into saddle hunting. So if you want to be more mobile this fall, check out latitudeoutdoors.com to see these 2 saddles and a bunch of other mobile hunting gear. We've enjoyed them a lot, and I think you're going to enjoy them too.
Eddie, I want to talk a little bit more even about like some of these old school guys you knew growing up. You said when you were a kid, there was only like 5 turkey hunters in this whole county. As you started getting up in age and you started killing some birds, you said you killed, I know you killed the first one you called in, I think when you said you were about 12 years old.
Yeah, that's right.
What was turkey hunting like back then from other, like, did you ever have a mentor outside of you kind of learning by yourself? Was there anybody that showed you any kind of ropes?
Well, let me say this. The first turkey I ended up killing when I was about 10, it's something about killing a turkey that you want to show him off. You'll take his beard, you'll cut his beard off, you'll take his feet off and his spurs, and you'll put it in a little Ziploc bag, or you'll put some borax on it and dry it out or whatever where it won't smell so bad. But you want to show it off. Well, them 5 guys that I'm telling you about, one of them was a dentist. He was a dentist in Evergreen, Alabama. His name was Dr. Joe Haygood. And so right after I killed that turkey, and I knew Mr. Haygood was a very good turkey hunter, so I wanted to show him my feet and beard, because he was going to work on my tooth. And my teeth, I probably, I don't know, maybe getting it a tooth filled or whatever. And but anyhow, I took my turkey feet in there, and he was asking me, well, how did you kill him? And I told him we bushwhacked him. And he said, well, son, that ain't the way to turkey hunt. Says, I need to go show you how to turkey hunt. And I said, well, I tell you what, that would be something I would cherish right there. I said, I might give my right arm to go with you. I said, because I know you know a lot about turkey hunting, and I would just love to go with you. He said, well, I tell you what. He said, I'm off on Thursday mornings. He said, or Thursdays all day. He said, if you'll talk your mama in letting you miss school next Thursday, I'll take you turkey hunting. And I said, I'll tell you what right now. I said, don't worry about that. What time you want me to be ready? I'll talk my mama into letting you carry me turkey hunting. You ain't going to have no problem with that. and I didn't. But he told me, be ready at 5 o'clock or whatever, and I was really superstitious. I had a pair of green pants, guys, that my grandfather showed me how to stripe them up. It's just old working green pants old khaki looking green pants. And I had an old corduroy, old corduroy shirt that, it was kind of the old brown looking, and I didn't have a head net, but anyhow, I had an old camouflage. No, I don't even know if it was camouflage. It might have even been brown. I don't even know if you could buy much camouflage back then. I remember my first camouflage, I got it from the boys that was in the National Guard, and we'll talk about that later on. But anyhow, I was superstitious. I said, man, if I wear these, this is my lucky clothes here. Sure enough, we went out, and he called my first turkey up that was ever called up to me right there. Matt Moret has called up a turkey and to me, and to my knowledge, Dr. Joe and Matt Moret is the only two people that's ever called turkeys up for me that I killed where I did not, carry a turkey call with me. And so anyhow, that was pretty neat to be able to go with them. But he showed me, and he had an old box call. He showed me how to use it was an old Lynch box call. Didn't take us very long. He called that old turkey up. He knew, he said it's going to be 3 gobblers in here this morning. We kind of got in a little head of woods, and it's going to be one there and one there and one behind us. And he said maybe one of them will come in here. And I think he didn't realize, he didn't know if I'd kill him or not. But anyhow, he come on in there, and I'd been shooting a bunch of squirrels in my younger days, so shooting that gun. But I used that old same 1100. I mean, not 1100, but 48 mile Remington. It wasn't 1100. I went and bought one later on, but old Remington. But that was one of the first automatics that I ever seen. And sure enough, old turkey come in there, and I killed a turkey, and so I had another one. I killed 2 turkeys in the same year right there. So I was actually well on my way to being a turkey hunter.
So after having that experience of hunting with your dentist and everything,
yeah.
What else, as you kind of transferred more into a turkey hunter, maybe getting to your late teenage year, early 20s, was there any other people that you started meeting? Like, when did you meet, Ben Rogers Lee? Like, when did that happen?
I met Ben Rogers Lee in 1977.
Okay.
And I actually met him in the hunting woods. We were up in Wilcox County, which is about 45 minutes north of here, Monroe and Wilcox. And we were hunting on it was Wilmer Timber Company land, big Macmillan Blodale up there, and we seen him coming out of the woods, and he wanted to know, well, boys, what are y'all doing out here? Big old heavy set guy, and it was Ben Roger Lee, and I was well aware of who Ben Roger Lee was, and because reading articles, because he was beginning to get some articles in the some of the papers around and about, and some of the magazines. And so anyhow, he invited me to come over there, and because, actually in 1978, I decided I wanted to, I felt like if I would get into turkey calling, and if I was around these caliber guys, some of these older guys, that I could learn so much from the way they call, and I could actually learn some hunting, because it wasn't nothing out there, guys. So I went to the Alabama State Turkey Calling Contest, and actually, let me back up. It was actually, I met Ben somewhere in the early 1976, because I went to that contest in 77. Went to my first Alabama State contest. It was a guy named George Hendricks, which was a good turkey hunter, and myself, and I can't remember exactly who else went with us over there, but maybe Bobby Johnson. Us 3, we were turkey hunters back then. Wasn't many turkey hunters, even in the late 70s. So we went to Jackson and got over there, and we listened to them call, and I think maybe Ben Lee won it that year, and George and myself says, man, we think we can get up there. And he said, man, Ed, I believe you can call as good as them guys. So anyhow, of course, I had met Ben in '76, and then I seen him at that first Alabama contest. And then in '78, I went over there and called 1970. I called in my first contest. And when I got through calling, Ben said, son, you sounded real good. I said, what kind of call are you running? I said, one I made. And he said, well, I want to see it. I said, it's something about that call. Boy, I like it. And come to find out, it was a stack frame call. What it was two. You take a regular frame mouth call and then put another call on top of it. It's called piggyback, or Primos calls it the true double. And it's got two calls stacked on top of each other. And he said, man, that's pretty neat. Well, in '79, I come in third place over in Alabama then. I called in it. But Ben told me, he says, son, in '78, says, the only thing you done was you rushed yourself. Said he said, I'll tell you one thing that you can do is slow down on your hands. Because we had one call we change up and we do different calls, but you could see slow down on your hands. Said write it on there, and sure enough, and I come in third place. And then he invited me over to his turkey shop where his women were making calls. And man, it was like, man, I couldn't believe here I am spending time with Ben Roger Lee, and he really wants to look at how I built my calls. And anyhow, I showed him and the design and so he started manufacturing and building a stack frame call. And he come out with the first stack frame I think in '80, and Will Primos come out with he called the true double, said it was the first double frame ever hit the market. Well, he was wrong. Ben Roger Lee was the first one, and to my knowledge, I was the first guy to ever start blowing on a double one. But now, guys, I picked it up from a guy from Mississippi called Brossy Dantone, and he would actually put 1, 2, 3 on top of each other. And I think about it, guys, because we were using 3 pieces of lead. Would open up with latex, and they were stacked up, and it felt like a big wad of peanut butter in my mouth. But you call with it, and it was the raspiest thing and I bought one of them. I actually seen it in a magazine. I said, man, I ain't never seen nothing look like that. So I ordered one off the magazine. Off the the magazine. He was selling it in a magazine, and so anyhow, I said, man, if I could just get one with 2. And it wouldn't be quite as raspy, I think it would be good. Anyhow, I started using them, and because that was the first raspy sound that I ever heard to come out of a mouth call until a guy from North Carolina come down here, Lewis Stowe, and we were calling in the Alabama State Contest. And Tom Stuckey was there, Paul Butsky, that's some old-timey guys now, and then Lewis Stowe, he was a terrific turkey hunter. And boy, you ought to hear the stories these guys were telling. But Lewis Stowe come in there with a 3-reed call, the first one Ben had ever seen, the first one that I'd ever seen. Now, who come up with it, I don't know, but he had a cut in the side of it. It was a cutter in there, and it was the best, at that time, seemed like the best sounding call I ever heard. And it was on a single frame. It wasn't a stack frame, but it had rafts to it, where other than that, you had to use a stack frame to get rafts out of it. So anyhow, I started changing up when I started seeing them putting them cuts, and I started putting cuts in calls. But we learned so much from each other, Paul Butsky and Ben Lee. And so the thing that I guess that helped me the most was being in there, spending time with them and asking them questions. And, I remember Mr. Dick Kirby. Of course, we lost Dick Kirby a few years ago. And you talking about a terrific caller. And boy, he could do things on mouth calls. And the thing about Dick was he gave all these calls that we were doing. I knew the calls, but I didn't know the appropriate or correct name to call, like cackles and cuts and kikis and clucks and purrs. Well, he was giving them names, and he was teaching us, clucking a purr. This is a fly down cackle. This is a kiki run or whatever. And basically, and of course, in the contest, that's what they were asking for anyhow. And, it was new to me, and I could do them, but I didn't know the correct names to them. And, so, boy, I tell you, I've seen, turkey calling come a long ways. I mean, it really has. But there again, it's just so much that you can learn from your fellow turkey hunter.
Did you ever get a chance to hunt with Ben Rogers Lee?
I've been to camp with Ben Roger Lee, but I promise you, I would have given my right hand to be able to hunt with him. When we were hunting together, he was taking Davy Allison turkey hunting. And Davy was turkey hunting with Ben, and they killed a turkey. And David told me, he said, man, I'd give anything to hunt with you. I want to hunt with you. Because I was at the camp, and we were killing turkeys too. But now Davy done the same thing with Ben, and Ben called him a turkey up, and he had his gun laying up on a log, and when he shot it, it come back and peeled his nose. I mean, he had hide peeled off his nose, and the turkey flew right over his head. Ben said, shoot him. He said, I can't, I got blood in my eye. So, it was just a treat to be. I was with a guy named Ken Tucker that had a TV show. He was one of the first guys to have a TV show on the Outdoor Channel called the Sportsman Showcase. And we were in camp. I was Ken actually, and that's how I got started in the turkey call business. I started, it's a story behind being a barber and all that, but I was cutting hair, and Ken was a good turkey hunter, and he come in and he said, man, me and you need to go in the turkey call business, because I had won my first world championship. I won Alabama State Champion in '83, and then it just, then it stepped on up, and I won my first world in in '85, excuse me. And Ben said, Ken says, you need to be in the turkey call business. Says, I sell fat wood, and what it is, it's a piece of pine tree, a longleaf pine that goes down in the roots, and then lightning strikes it a lot of times, and all the turpentine out of the tree runs to the root, and then they cut it off, and they busted it up with a hatchet, and it was a little piece of pine wood about that long, about big as your thumb, and you could just touch it with a cigarette or a match. Whew, it's just like putting gas on it. That's how a lot of the folks were building fires back then. I knew all about it, but he was selling LL Bean close to $2 million worth of fat wood at that particular time. He had women in Brewton, Alabama, chopping fat wood up, and they would bundle it up and selling it for like $20 a bundle, and LL Bean was selling it all over the world. So Ken said, I got the knowledge to sell turkey calls, I'll help you. I said, well, I don't know nothing about it. All I know how to do is cut hair. And he said, well, I'll take care of the business end of it. If you got the name, if you'll go help me sell it. And so it exploded right then. And then, so I started a turkey call company in 1985. And then in 1989, I had to give up cutting hair and go full time into the turkey call business. And I ended up with 18 employees that was helping me build turkey calls. Our office was in Brewton, Alabama, because of Ken. That's where he lived at. But the reason I'm saying that, we were hunting down there on the Macmillan's property. T.R. Miller makes the light poles, and the Macmillans are all tied up together. And we were hunting on a block of timber down there, a block of land that was 80,000 acres. And they had all these camps down there. And that's how Ben Lee and all that got over there. And with all these other guys, they wanted to come in and hunt on that famous Macmillan, and on that famous camp down there. It was called Why Not? And Ken, he was using that. But backing up a minute or two, when I got into the turkey call business, before Ken got started in the television show, we had bought one of them old big beta cams and stuff, and we were filming our turkey hunts. And Ken just fell in love with it because he loved to talk on television, and I didn't care nothing about it. And of course, I'm bad about talking, but back then I did not want to talk. And so Ken, he fell in love with seeing himself on our videos, talking and all that. So he said, well, I'm gonna have a TV show. So that's when he come out with Sportsman Showcase. And after that, we departed ways. I said, well, you go and do your TV thing, and I'm gonna stay with the turkey call business. And so, ended up buying him out, but we still was in the same office, great friends. And of course, Ken died a few years ago with a heart attack. But up to that, he had the Sportsman Showcase that aired on the Outdoor Channel. He was one of the first 2 or 3 that had that. And he probably had shot over 100 turkeys with me over the years right there. I think we could go out in the Walmart parking lot if me and him went hunting, and I'd call him up a turkey. He was my good luck piece, and he would end up shooting him.
I want to go back for a minute, getting into the turkey call business and everything like that. At what point did you figure out that turkeys were going to be your thing? You talked about hunting when you were a little kid and growing up around turkeys,
Yeah.
but do you remember the moment where you're like, I'm a turkey hunter?
Well, I guess it probably started in about 1974, and and I'm gonna get into the barbering deal too in a minute, but I had bought a brand new Ford 4-wheel drive truck, and I had found some ground up around Mac Williams, Alabama, somewhere Hank Williams and them, where his folks were born that way back up there when. But it was some of that Macmillan Brodale and some of that Wilmot Timber Company. You could buy a permit and you could hunt about 50,000 acres there. And so basically, but you couldn't get in there. The ground was tore up and it was bad. So basically, I bought that 4-wheel drive, and I become a good turkey hunter back then because I was hunting. Because if I messed up on a turkey, I could go to another. I could go to hunt another turkey in another spot just right down the road, and that access with a 4-wheel drive probably helped me. And I realized, hey, I'm a turkey hunter now. I'm really killing turkeys, and I had a lot of places to go.
So, and you had a job, the barber job,
Yeah.
which allowed you. Tell us about the barber job. That's something Preston Pittman was talking about. A lot of turkey killers seem to do hair for a living for some reason.
How did you get into it?
What it was back when I was a young boy, and I was like 4 or 5 years, 3, 4, and 5 or something. I stayed with my aunt, and a lot of times she would keep me, but she babysitted me. Let me put it that way. Mm-hmm. And her husband, he was kind of a retired barber, but he'd get out on his front porch and he would cut hair out there. And he'd have all these men coming in telling stories, and he was cutting hair. Well, I got interested in it. I mean, it was a fascinating me for him, to watch him cut hair. So basically, when he passed on, I remember, I was a big storyteller back then too, but when he passed on, he willed me all this haircutting equipment and everything. So I ended up with, scissors, clippers, and all. I had all this haircutting stuff when I was about 12, 13 years old. So basically, I started cutting hair when I was young. Like that, some of my buddies around here would come in. If they were brave enough, I'd start cutting hair. And so anyhow, I ended up going, a boy downtown, his name was Jerry Adams. He had a barbershop down there, and he knew I was cutting hair out here. I mean, when I was 16 years old, I was cutting a lot of hair out here, guys. Now, some of them, I ain't gonna say how good they look, but, I remember one day, one of them boys said, "Oh, you got me looking like a Dominicker chicken." And one of them, a Dominicker chicken's got white spots all in his head, on the chicken, feathers like that. But anyhow, I had him gapped up was what he was talking about. And, but anyhow, this boy invited me down. He said, "Look, I need some help." And back then, you could he could grandfather and teach me how to cut hair, and I could come and get my barber license under the grandfather clause. So I actually started cutting hair when I was 16, 17. And then when I got out of high school, me and him went to styling school in Mobile. I went to, barber styling school down there, and we'd go down there 2 or 3 nights a week, and that helped me more than anything else. But far as overall, that's how I got started, and it was my interest as a young boy. But and then him giving me an opportunity, and it turned into right after we got through with the styling school, he decided he wanted to go. He went back to Birmingham. That's where he had went to. He went up there and he sold me a shop. So here I am, 18 years old, with a barbershop, my own barbershop, right out of high school, basically, just about, and styling school. And but I'm gonna tell you guys, I would not be in the turkey call business if the good Lord hadn't let me become a barber, because I think overall it gave me an education on how to deal with people. If they wanted to play golf or whatever they were doing, they were going to tell me. I learned things I didn't want to know most of the time, but it was a lot of things was very interesting. And I had to keep up with football and golf, everything. But also it really, I got to looking at, hey, I got a great opportunity right here. I said, if you really think about it a little bit, here I got a guy sitting in my chair, and I'm in this old barber chair right here. I bought it back, about 40 years ago. I got a guy sitting in this barber chair right now, and I'm cutting his hair that owns, a 2,000 acre piece of property. And, I'm going to ask him how he wants his haircut first, and he tells me, I'm going to go to cutting it, and about halfway through that haircut, have you been seeing any turkeys on your property? Oh, yeah, I've been seeing some turkeys. Well, I bet you back then, if I'd had a video camera, I'd been smiling from ear to ear when he told me he had a bunch of turkeys on his property. Or the farmers, or the real estate guys. You think about the different guys I had in there, and I'd ask them, and they'd tell me, yeah, I've been seeing some turkeys, and I'd just keep cutting hair. And I worked with a bunch of mirrors around. I would turn them around and let them look at the haircut and ask them, does that look okay? Yeah, it looks fine. Well, about that time, we had a machine. I don't use it nowadays because age won't let you do it, but I had a machine about big as wasn't quite as big as a cigar box that you poured soapy water in, that I could mash a button and it would heat it up and it would just roll out like shaving cream. It just rolled out that hot, we called it hot leather. And we'd put that old hot soapy on around the neck and the ears, and about that time I'd get him soaked up good, and I'd break out that straight razor over there. And at that time I had a leather strap on my chair, and I'd hit that straight razor and touch it up a little bit where he knew it was good and sharp. And I'd start shaving around that ear, and I'd come on around that back, and I'd grab that old left ear and put that razor on the top of it. And I asked him, so, a while ago you was telling me that you had turkeys on your property. Do you think it's any way possible I can go turkey hunting this year? And guys, I'm going to tell you, having turkeys to hunt, I never did get turned down. When you got that razor on there, it gains you a lot of access. And so around Evergreen right here, I could hunt just about anywhere I wanted to hunt, just about. And that helped me more so, but it become popular, and a lot of it got the sons, and that's the worst thing to do is get their kids involved in it, because they're going to take it away from you, because they're going to start loving it and you ain't going to be able to hunt it. And I lost a lot of property, but like I said, I bought that 4-wheel drive truck, and it opened the door, because every place I stopped, I could pull into up there. I'd hear 4 or 5 turkeys gobbling and drive a mile down the road and hear 4 or 5 more gobble. I would kill a turkey or take somebody with me. I didn't drive up there every day, but every day I went up there, I never did hardly come home without a turkey. And I think the experience of getting out and having that many opportunities to hunt turkeys and being that successful, because if I messed up, I learned from mistakes. Back then we could kill 5 turkeys, and then we went up to 6 turkeys, and now in Alabama you can kill 4. But when you start killing, I was seeing 30 to 40 turkeys die every year that I was calling up. And it's the experience, guys. You can't beat that. I remember going to Texas one year, guys. I know I'm bragging now. and my old head be big as a 55-gallon drum when I come back from Texas. Man, I ain't a turkey I can't call up. I went out there one day. Of course, I was working with Hunter Specialties. We had customers coming in, and I had to take, it was a bunch of them out there. I'd take two. I'd put one on one side and one on the other. If two or three come in, one pick out one pick out the other, and they would shoot them. We'd kill 2 turkeys. All right. One day I had 10 kills that was killed in one day and 2 missed on video out there. So, here's 12 turkeys that got shot at in one day that I called up, So, the experience, guys, I can't tell you about how important experience is. And, I've learned things that, over the years by experiencing. And, and I still think that, you need to stay in a Holiday Inn Express and learn more. And, I think it's always keep your mind open and be willing to change. But going back to that barber, it gave me an opportunity to hunt. Because if somebody messed me up one morning in one spot, I knew another place I could go to. And then the next thing I'm going to tell you about is a lot of my customers would come in that was turkey hunters. And they would be fooling with a turkey. And they said, man, I can't kill him. I said, come on and go with me. Well, back then, I had so much blood in my eyes. I wanted to kill every turkey that I called up. And back then, I learned a lesson that I talk a little bit about, but a lot of people don't talk a whole lot about, is I found out I could direct a turkey. If I wanted him to come on my side, I'd start calling. I'd turn my mouth on, my hand, and I'd throw sound right there. And 9 times out of 10, if I throw my sound here, that turkey's going to come on this side. If I wanted him to come on that side, I'd throw it over there. Or if I wanted him to come down the middle, I'd change it up. Box call, you can move around. Slate call, friction call, the same way. And I control these turkeys. And boy, I done them old customers bad, because a lot of times I'd kill the turkey. I said, well, if he comes on your side, you shoot him. If he comes on my side, I'm going to shoot him. Well, I'm sitting here, boom. Man, I shot that turkey. I was hoping he'd come on your side. And I knew right where the turkey was going to come most of the time. You can control a turkey. You can, most of the time, make him come where you want him to come.
One thing, Eddie, I've been really curious to ask you about is the woodsmanship that you learned early on as a kid. And we didn't really touch on this a whole bunch, but you mentioned you squirrel hunted a whole bunch. I'm sure y'all deer hunted a little bit.
Well, that'd be great. I'd love to get into that.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit. Like, what was the woodsmanship? What did you learn from your parents, uncles, family members as a young boy from a woodsmanship standpoint that still you rely on today?
No doubt about it. My father taught me how to walk in the woods. He see that limb down there, don't step on that limb, get along these edges of these roads, or fire lanes, or, get along the edge of the creeks, walk these little streams of water and just slip along there. And I've learned to do that. And I could hear turkeys scratching up in the woods because they wouldn't hear me come. And I think that's the most important thing. If you hunting with me, I have got on a many people, man, look, pick your feet up. I said, you dragging your feet, I can hear you coming 10 miles. I said, I don't want that. And I like to, actually, if you hunting with me, I'm walking along and I got my ears where I could hear a turkey gobble. I'm listening for a turkey to gobble while I'm walking through the woods. But it all come from squirrel hunting. It all come from my father. But not only did he teach me how to walk through the woods, he taught me what a red oak tree was, a white oak tree, and just a regular, like a water oak acorn, a small acorn. And he taught me the food source that these squirrels would be eating. Same way with turkeys also, these small acorns are different things. And talking about deer hunting, I killed one of the biggest bucks I ever killed here in Alabama over a kudzu patch. That they were coming in the kudzu in the early bow season, and they were coming in there killing it. And found out that bucks like kudzu, does don't like it so much in the early part of the season because it makes their milk get stringy or something, and they know it's not good for the little ones, so they won't eat that kudzu. But I learned a lot about, I think a lot of little things, just like, knowing the food source and knowing where to look at. And then it come from a grandfather, like telling me to get out in the open, get out there and set up and be still and, and focus, and learn, the importance back then to learn the importance of, good camouflage, head nets, gloves, it was years that, they wasn't nobody talking about it, and, pay attention, just like you wear your boots, a lot of times, you used to wear, little old low shoes or so, and your socks would come up, have a white sock with a red ring around it about halfway up your leg. Hey, that looks like a turkey head with that white and red. You're crazy to go out there. But some of these things like that, I was at a seminar. I wish y'all could have had an opportunity to done Ben Lee on a podcast or had him on there. But we were up at up in Greenville, Alabama. Y'all come through here, coming down to Evergreen, and I was at a gymnasium, guys. I don't know who invited Ben to speak up there, but that gym was full of folks, 400 folks there, and Ben was talking about how to kill turkeys, and but unknowing that Charles Kelly was up there, and y'all probably don't know Charles Kelly, but Charles Kelly was the head of the Game and Fish Department of Alabama. He was the man. And he was in the audience, and Ben didn't know he was in there. But Ben said, guys, look here. He said, it's a couple things I really want to point out, but if you want to be a good, show enough turkey killer, you see, if you stumble across these postage signs about like this right here, he said, that's telling you there's a lot of turkeys in these woods right here. And he said, and on top of that, he said, you see these tennis shoes right here? They green and striped up. He said, they were white to start with. Buy you a pair of tennis shoes. He had a pair of tennis shoes on that night. And take you a green can of spray paint and spray them green where the turkeys can't see the bottom or the top of them. And he said, somebody gets at you, you get up and run. And Charles Kelly got up and left the building. And I like to die over there. Ben didn't know he was in there. He said telling 400 people to poach turkeys. And he was just a colorful guy. And, he's absolutely right, But guys, you got to have your respect for your fellow turkey hunter. If you see a posted sign, and it's got so much serious. I mean, this was 40 years ago. It wasn't that many hunting clubs, and it wasn't very much posted land, and you could about gain access to hunt any ground you wanted to hunt. But but it's so much changed nowadays. You need to know whose property you own, and you need to have permission to be there.
Yeah, that is a big thing, man. Like all the people that I grew up around who mentored me,
yep.
A lot of them hunted timber company leases, which you could get a free permit for, or they just lived in a small town and they knew everybody, and they could go wherever they wanted to.
That's it.
It's just not like that anymore.
You're right.
Yeah, the times have changed.
Well, that, and then kind of going, even diving more into the woodsmanship, what did you learn? I mean, you learned a lot about setting up because of your grandfather, about how to set up a little bit more in the open. But from experiences, what is your ideal setup in the turkey woods, especially if you feel like more like Alabama piney mixed hardwoods? Like, what do you look for outside of fields?
Well, that's something that you can't hardly teach. Mm-hmm. That's something you're going to gain from experience. If you hear that turkey gobble, just like if I walk in the woods and an owl hoot, and listen to another one, and then it may be one over here, just really just charming in there, gobbling 4 or 5 times. And so you got 3 turkeys gobbling. Which one do you go hunt? Well, I'm going to go hunt the one that sounds like he's the most desperate. That he's saying to hens, hey, here I am over here. Come over here. Come over here. And most of the time, if you get to hunting one that's really vocal a lot, I mean, really gobbling a lot, that's the one that's, he's looking for a hen. He's wanting to, and, but you learn a lot of things like that. Just like I'm going to illustrate basically a little hunt. And what I'm doing is basically learning to read a turkey. And what I mean is, we'll check his, what we call, Alex Rutledge, we talk about check his temperature. And the reason I say that, now if you call to an old turkey that's, and he don't answer you, and all at once, he gobbles. Well, that turkey is telling you he ain't that fired up about you. You know, he hey, I'm over here and I'm available, but, you know, chances are he probably ain't coming because he probably knows HS Strut, Primos, Lynch, and all that. He's already heard them all. If he ain't cut you off, and that's what I'm talking about, learning to read that turkey. Now, if that turkey, if you start calling to him, and he gobbles at you before you get through calling, that turkey's ready right there. He's telling you he's very killable. He's really telling you, hey, I want to ride in your truck. That's what he wants to do. And, you know, so when I find a turkey that cuts me off like that, a lot of times, you know, here's the key right here too, is learning when to call. And I've learned that over years, and why you need to call and what you need to be saying to him. Well, a lot of times when that turkey cuts me off like that, then what I do is, and I want you to think about, in if you're a turkey hunter, for the first, you know, when you go in and you set up on a turkey and he's out there 150 or 200 yards, and the first time you call to him and he cuts you off as a turkey hunter, boy, that makes you feel so good. You know, man, he likes me. You know, it gets you fired up. And so what I like to recommend actually is let a turkey gobble. And when he gobbles, I like to reverse that role. Like I was telling you, you know, it made me feel good. Well, now I want to make him feel good. I want to get in his head. So what I'm doing, I may call the first time. If he cuts me off, like I was telling you, I will not call to him anymore until he gobbles. And then when he gobbles, the first thing he hears is me calling back to him. All right, well, if you think about it, you know, you get in that gobbler's head right there, you know, because you answering him. But here's where the guys mess up as a beginner turkey hunter. They want to get out there, and old turkeys, I mean, they want to hammer that turkey and that turkey. You got him gobbling so much while he's still up in a tree. That's where we mess up at as a turkey hunter. We call too aggressive while that turkey's in the tree. Let that turkey pitch out, and then you pick up your aggressive. You want to start really getting a more aggressive to him and make him forget what's going on right there. And old turkey right there, every now and then you call to him like that. He has to pick his wing up, wipe the sweat off his head. He's waiting for that hen to come see him. He knows she's going to be there at any minute now. So many times they sit there to 9 or 10 o'clock, where if you hadn't called so aggressive, then he pitches out. But what I like to do, let's go back right quick, is I actually like the tree call to one just a little bit. And that's not doing a whole lot of calling. That's just I like to really use a friction call, something real light. And I don't get no aggressive to that, but that's what I do. That's the first call I use. And I might use that call 20 to 30 times or 40 times. I'm sitting there waiting on him to gobble at a crow or an owl. Before he gets through gobbling, I'm calling for him to hear that. That's all I do. I don't do no cackle. I don't do any cutting. I wait for him to pitch out. And guys, if you'll wait for him to pitch out and you start picking up, one thing I like to do is when he pitches out right there, is when he hits the ground. I'm kind of taking y'all on the turkey hunt. I don't know if y'all know that right now, but that's what I'm doing. And I'm gonna go ahead and put a little mouth call in there, because I can tree call with that mouth call a little bit more aggressive, and I can talk with it. And I'm just gonna take you on that hunt, and I'm sitting up there waiting on that old turkey to gobble. When he gobbles, I'm just hitting him real light, or you take that friction call. And what I like to do on that friction call is to palm it. I like to don't let the sound chambers come out. I like to palm it in my hand and call real quiet on it. But I hear that turkey fly down, and this is very important, guys. I don't do nothing but tree call to him and let him fly down. When I know, and sometimes you can't tell, but most of the time you can tell the sound he's on the ground now. You can tell it's quieting up, and it ain't as, as loud as it was in the tree. Well, I like to let him know that I'm on the ground. I'd like to let that turkey know I'm on the ground, and a lot of times I'll do a little cackling. And I hit a few quick notes like that. But I didn't cackle a long series of time. A lot of guys, they've watched too much TV, they've watched too much YouTube, and they'll get out there. A turkey will do that a lot of times. She flies down, especially if she's flying a long distance. If she's flying out in the field or clear cut. But in the woods most of the time, unless she hits the road or whatever, she just and she sits down right there. And if you do that, that lets that gobbler know that hen is just right there. If you do that long drawed off cackle, you just told that hen you flew about a half a mile over there. You gone. And a lot of times he won't come on in there. But if you do that cackle and he flies down, he's already down and you fly down, just hit a few notes and he gobbles. Best thing for you to do is take your call, put the lid back on your little old case right there and throw them about 10 yards over there, and you'll kill a lot of turkeys that way because you got him coming to you. And as long as that turkey's coming to you, don't never call no more. See, all I done right now is just tree call to that turkey, and I done that little bitty a little bitty fly down. That's the only 2 calls I use on that turkey. And a lot of times that's all it takes. I kill that turkey. I know one morning I was hunting with Toxie Hayes and Cuz Strickland nowhere, and I had cackled to a turkey on the roost right there and tree called. Cuz, I'm gonna let you, call to him. And all I done was tree call, and I seen that old turkey. It was one of them pretty Mississippi bottoms, though. I could see that turkey coming. Well, about that time, I shut up and didn't call him more because he was coming. Cuz breaks out that tube call and went to calling, and that turkey stopped in his track over there and didn't come anymore. And and I asked him, I said, man, why did you call for that turkey for? If you'd have shut up, he'd have come up here and we'd have killed him. And that turkey sat there and it never budged a lick. And he stayed there waiting on that hen to come him. And that's what happens a lot of times. The guys call too much when the turkey's coming on in there. Now, there's other things to do if that turkey hangs up out there, and we'll talk about them if y'all want to a little later on. But right now, I'm just using 2 calls, and I've killed a lot of turkeys with just that 2 calls.
Yeah, one thing about calling too much at turkeys, I'm not a great turkey hunter by any means.
Yeah.
I'm mediocre at best. But when I started limiting my calling a lot more is when I actually started consistently killing turkeys.
Yeah.
And like that, for instance, a scenario I wanted to run by you is like a couple years, this happened a couple times, but most recently I had a bird where it was pitch black dark and he gobbled on the roost, and he's on the next ridge point over from me. And I mean, pitch black dark, just gobbled at nothing. I was like, okay. And he gobbled 100 more times before it got to be daylight. He's gobbling up in the tree.
In the daylight.
Yeah.
In the dark.
In the dark, gobbling in the dark. I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can barely contain myself.
Yeah.
And so it gets to be daylight. I wait, I don't say anything. I wait for him to pitch down. He hits the ground. He gobbles twice on the ground. I'm like, okay, he's definitely on the ground. I yelp like 4 times, and he had gobbled at every single thing that morning. Crows, a school bus, nothing. I yelped 4 times, and he doesn't do anything. And I just put the call down, and 10 minutes later, I killed him, and he came walking in. So in situations like that, how do you like where he did not respond to me?
Yeah.
But I kind of had a feeling just because he was so hot, he might be coming in. How do you read a turkey? How do you read a situation and know when to stop calling?
Well, that's just an instinct. You got to learn the more you do it. But I think a lot of times the least amount you can call And you know, especially, let me say this too. Now, if he got competition and the hen's really, you know, he's henned up over there, I think you need to be real aggressive on calling that way, and that you learn to run multiple calls and, you know, change it up a little bit. And but you know, it kind of breaks your heart when you call one don't answer you. But just because he don't answer you, don't mean he ain't coming. And I'm gonna tell you, 9 times out of 10, now this is, I found out to be true. A turkey's gonna fly down away from you, and it won't be but in just a few minutes he's gonna be breaking and coming back to you. I don't know why he flies down away. I don't know if he, you know, tries to get you to get up, you know, and move or whatever. He's just trying to figure out things, but they'll fly. I don't know if he does that in the wild to the hens or what, but he normally will fly down, and then it won't be but a little bit. He'll be back up under the tree, coming right back at you. And so don't let it worry you as a turkey hunter just because he don't answer you. Of course, we like for him to cut us off and, you know, to answer us when we call to him. But patience like that, I think, let me say this, and I think the thing that when I learned to read one is when I call to him, and if he don't say nothing, I don't hardly ever call to him no more. I'm gonna wait and let him gobble again and see what he's doing, what directions he's headed in. And if he's headed in my direction, I'm through with calling. And, you know, and you call 4 or 5 times and shut up. Where if you'd have kept calling, you may have stopped him out there, but you shut up and he come on in there. So, you know, maybe it was accidentally that you shut up, but, you know, I mean, you didn't know. But, you know, a lot of times that could be the advantage, is not to call too aggressive, to just unfold it, let it unfold the hunt, let it and see what he does. If he ain't, if he's taking his time, then gobbling, and then it's time to do something else.
Yeah, that's what always messed me up. Is like you just want to force it. You want
right.
him to walk in so bad.
Oh yeah,
you're just like you're kind of begging to him, like you were saying earlier. You're like, please come over here.
Right, that's right.
You know. So now, what about when, like you were saying, when one hangs up? For instance?
Well, here's, if you'll look at all these holes in it, most of the time we'll take it and we'll control it, That's the sound coming out of it. But if I take make the same amount of pressure with it in my hands, it's going to really quiet. Just going to quiet. That's why I love to make that tree call. And all I'm doing is I'm drawing little bitty footballs. Holding my peg, here's 12 o'clock. I'm holding my peg at 1:30, 15 degrees away from me, and never pick up. That's the problem that the guys have with the pegs. A lot of times they want to pick that peg up, but keep that peg pressure on it when you're running it. And then sometimes that turkey hangs up out there. I'll get where I move my finger a little bit. Just
here, hold it up a little bit higher for your camera. Yeah, do it right there.
Now listen to the difference when I just move my finger down. It's kind of like I like to change the tone on it like that. It's kind of like my wife, a lot of times I go in and I love to drink sweet tea, and I'll go in after the day I've been turkey hunting or doing stuff out, and I'm sitting there on the bar drinking tea, and she'll be telling me stuff that went on with her. She'll just be motor mouthing, man. She'll just be telling me things and I've had stuff going on my turkey hunt or whatever, and I'm kind of blocking her out. I ain't even listening to her. She's just motor mouthing, and then all at once she said, well, what did you think about what I was telling you a while ago? And I ain't got a clue. And I'll just say, whoa, okay, I heard you, but tell me again. To start with, she was real sweet with that voice. But right now, that voice is just blowing up now. I mean, you can tell that she's got disturbed because I wasn't listening to her real good. And what she's doing is, same way with a turkey. When that turkey changes her vocals and it goes from high to low, she said, you better listen to me now. And it's the same way my wife was saying, you better listen to me. She's that old gobbler, you better listen to me. And a lot of times you get his attention. Yes, ma'am, I heard you a while ago, but tell me again. I got it now. And that's that same way with the turkey. If you think about it and relate to just common, the common life, relate to some of the same things. But anyhow, learning to change that volume can really, you can pick it up and go into aggressive hen yeps like that. But, let's talk about some serious stuff here. When that turkey really hung up out there, one of the things that I like to do is just that little old cluck and purr. But a lot of times and then I'll take my hands and I'll run it down and scratching the leaves. I'll just move the leaves around and he hear them leaves. And so many times I've actually, when I was clucking and purring, and I'd quit purring and then and he'd gobble at me scratching in the leaves. And guys, if he ever gobbled at me scratching in the leaves, I don't know if I'd ever even call to him anymore. I'd lay the call down and just scratch him on up. It's a call itself. It's just like a hen yep or a cluck and purr. It's a call itself. We need to give it a name. Hen scratching, and that's what it is. But you can, run them together. And a lot of times I've actually they would be hung up and I'd start, clucking and purring a little bit. And then he'd gobble at me scratching. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I would never call no more. I'd let him come on in there. And I've killed a lot of turkeys with just that call right there. And, I probably killed a pickup load of turkeys with this call right here, guys. I mean, this is something that I have been very successful with. And make sure I got my mouth called in correctly here. All right. This is going to be, he's hung up and he really, I done that scratching in the leaves and he still won't come. And I've been doing a lot of other stuff and he won't come. This is what I go to right here. I go to a fighting purr. And these blue jeans are a little slickier in my old hunting pants. And I'll take my hat and beat my legs. And, sometimes, or either if my hunting buddies with, and guys, I'm telling you, it's poison. Just a couple years ago in Mississippi, I had caught up 7 gobblers. One morning, I had 2 boys out there, and the boy never killed a turkey, and he'd run the turkeys off. And they went around, it was on the power line. It was about 18 degrees that morning. I like to froze to death. And I was sitting there, best gobbling morning I ever heard in my life, up there close to Pontotoc, Mississippi. And it was a cane break. You know how sometimes it was in a little swampy area, but it was canes breaking on both sides. And it was a little thick over there, and them gobblers got over there and went to gobbling. And I must have heard 25 to 30 different turkeys gobbling off in the distance. These would gobble every time I'd get up to them, and they wouldn't come in there. So I went to doing that fighting purr, and my buddy, I told him, I said, beat your leg with your hat. And he went to hitting his leg, pop, 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 pop. And I went to doing that fighting purr. And they run in there. And we had some decoys set out. And they run in there and got on that decoy and went to beating the decoy. And both of them killed turkeys opening day in Mississippi 2 years ago. And we wouldn't have never brought it. I'd sit there forever, seemed like, and they would never come in. But I went to doing that fighting purr. And guys, look here. I know I'm talking a lot about it, but in early season, I'm going to say the first 2 weeks of season, if you'll get into doing, if turkeys hang up and you have trouble, if you'll learn to do that fighting purr, I promise you'll be a lot of turkeys riding your truck with you.
Man, hunting the last week of this deer season in Alabama, I heard that.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded just like that.
Could you explain for the audio and video listeners exactly what you were doing, specifically with your friction call, your pot call?
Yeah.
How you were doing that? Because you're running a mouth call and 2 strikers.
Yeah.
So can you explain?
Yeah, what I'm doing is I'm trying to sound like three turkeys. I'm just, and all I'm doing is, you just get and I actually too, my hunting call, I actually take and put like a band or like a rubber band around it, and it sets in there, and that rubber will help me hold it in between my legs real good. And all this is doing is I'm just dragging it and just, but you want to hold the peg up high. But then you throw that mouth call. And I ain't doing nothing special to get that out of it. All I'm doing is just taking it and holding it up high and just, putting a little more pressure on it. And then a mouth call, man, purring with a mouth call probably was one of the hardest things for me to learn to do. And just. And all I'm doing is fluttering my tongue. I'm taking my tip end of my tongue and I'm rolling it up, and I'm hitting that latex about middle ways, and I'm vibrating my tongue. It's kind of like you hear old Jake brakes on the truck, but you fluttering your tongue to get that, and then you add a little bit to it. But all I'm doing. And of course, don't all the guys run the mouth call the same way. And what I found out over the years from way back there, it actually come from my grandfather. Because when I was first learning to run a mouth call, I was running it with real flat tongue. And, it's got a funny sound when you run it with your tongue. Just think about it being up between your teeth and you got your tongue real flat. That's about 80% of the guys run the mouth call that way. All right, but I like to you can take your tongue and arch your tongue up a little bit, but I like to take the very tip end of my tongue, and I like to roll it right up in the middle ways of that latex with the tip end of my tongue up. I'm going to call flat tongue, and I'm going to roll my tongue up. And I'll tell you what will help you the most when you're running a mouth call is to learn to control your air coming out of your diaphragm. Call out of your diaphragm. Don't call like we talking with free air. That's how a lot of the guys are running mouth call is free air, and that with their tongue flat, and that's why it sounds that way. But think about it. If you got your tongue, kind of pointed up to a point right there, and you got that airflow coming up, you channeling that air right directly to on that latex. You coming right directly, and you controlling that airflow. Where if it's flat, air's running all off the sides, you ain't controlling it. But if you control that air coming off your tongue, it'll help you get a lot better, crisper sound, especially at cutting. And then I like to huff. And you can say the word like chuck, chuck, chuck. And what chuck will do will help you go from high to low. It'll help you break that down. But the problem a lot of guys will have, they try to match the sound. They try to go with the air from high to low. Don't worry about it. Just get you a deep breath of air, like you're going to try to blow a balloon up. And then when you get through running that air out, grab another deep breath of air. Now get another deep. And you know, when I got an old turkey hung up out there too, guys, that when I really, you know, especially on up in the morning, a lot of times, like I was telling you, here's a nesting hen trying to get back with the flock. Old hen will be excited, and sometimes it'll be two of them. And, you know, that's one of the reasons I like this little aluminum. This is an aluminum box here that's got a unique sound. It's completely different than anything in the woods out there. It's two different distinguished hens. You ain't got no doubt about knowing it's two different hens. Even with a friction pot call and a mouth call, they sound real similar a lot. But that with that aluminum, it gives it that real high tinny. The old turkey can't handle it when he hears them two hens crank up. And the thing I like about a box too, because a lot of times I go in and owl hoot. Oh, matter of fact, I got an owl call in my pocket now. Owl call, and because I was out this morning, I went and made a turkey gobble this morning, and I had to go do some other stuff, so I put these old blue jeans and I took my old owl call out. And then, you know, that's just a one note there, but you can say, who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? And then you run them together. But you really want to, it's got the little metal reed in, you really want to drag out air. And that's where I was talking about Jake brakes on a truck while I go more so than a mouth call. Drag out and flutter your tongue. And so many times I've had other hunters in the woods and I would kind of be trying to impress them a little bit. And then I say, I didn't hear a turkey gobble. And he said, oh yeah, a turkey gobble right in the dead middle of you owl hooting right there. And it kind of taught me a lesson to just come in there and learn to hit a single note. I had a turkey gobble at a single note this morning. And just drag it. And that gives you a chance, you dragging it right there with that throaty sound. You can hear that turkey gobble. You may not can hear him gobble without just, if you went into the 8-syllable deal.
That's such a good tip, because I've had that happen too. Like if I hunt with Andrew, hunt with a buddy, and one of us is running a hooter, and they're hitting like one of those 6-8 note hoots, and halfway through they gobble, and you're like trying to tell them, hey, he gobbled, and you're like, well, where? I'm like, sound like right here, but like the guy running the call never would typically hear them, especially if they're off a little ways.
You're right. I promise you. Yes, sir.
So when it comes to calling, what do you think? Looking from the new hunter's lens, we have a lot of new turkey hunters that watch the podcast and listen to the show too. What do you think some of the biggest mistakes are starting out calling? They get a couple calls, they feel confident with it. Do you think they call too much, too little? Like, what do you think?
I think if they need to learn to use multiple calls. I think they need to get them a good fritz call, get them a good box call, get them a good mouth call. And the importance of a mouth call is you got both hands on the gun. And one thing too that can help you out a lot too, if you can't run a mouth call real good. If you're picking up a pot call or whatever, you got to lay your gun down and run it. Well, take a box call, especially I make just old plain box call that I use a lot. I'll take and clean out the grass, the leaves real good. And if you'll think about it, in your mind, dig this box call down to almost to the very top of it into the dirt, where you can just ease your hand down just a little bit by your side. Most of us are using a little seat that we set on anyhow to keep us off the ground. And I highly recommend keeping your butt dry, because if you get it wet, you're going to be moving, it's going to itch. And that's for a beginner hunter. Learn to keep your butt dry. Use a cushion. But I like to use these little seats because it gets you off the ground, your legs won't go to sleep. Mine's trying to go to sleep while I go sitting here. But anyhow, keep your legs up off the ground. Butt movement will kill you. You got your gun in your left hand. If you're right-handed, you just come down to your side and you just call. And that ground acts like a third hand. It's sitting there holding your call. Where a lot of times you get an old turkey out there about 60 yards, and he's looking at you. And if you can just take that and grab that box and just cluck, if you can't use a mouth call, just cluck to him a little bit. A cluck is a call that they make 12 months out of the year. You got a tree call like we talked about, and a fly down cackle. And a while ago, I was just using some plain old aggressive type hen call. That's an old standard hen call, the old mama hen call that we called. And you add some cuts to it, and that's an aggressive type call that's so important. I've been out, trying to locate turkeys, with that owl and a crow, and not make a turkey gobble. And then I'd go to that real aggressive hen call. And actually, this aluminum right here, so much, I reckon the volume makes a difference, but I made turkeys gobble with it where I couldn't make gobble with a mouth call. And then, 10 years ago, you would have told me, I would have told you I can make any turkey gobble with a mouth call that will gobble just about. But I found out, I've been out there, knowing it's turkeys there, before I leave, pick this box call up in the last few years and hit it. And guess what, guys? If he don't gobble, you can't kill him. You gone somewhere else. How many times have we drove away from turkeys, that was in the woods, if you'd have went on down there and took the time, but you ain't gonna take the time if you don't know he's down there. So, carry a couple different calls and learn. I know it's to answer your question, but learn how to run multiple calls. It's kind of like going bass fishing, guys. Do you take a tackle box out there, will you? Or do you take just a spinner bait? No, you take all kinds. You take plastic worms. You take deep divers. You take spinning baits and old purple worm or whatever. And you start fishing. As soon as you catch a fish, man, that's what you start using, that old purple worm. You use it. You catching fish. You got confidence in it. Same way with turkey call. If you out there, you ain't hearing turkeys gobble sometimes, and you pick up a call and you don't hear one, then go to another one. Well, hey guys, that's the one you want to stay with. If he answered that pot call, stay with that pot call. If he answered that box call, stay with that box call, or mouth call. Whichever one you make him gobble, stay with it.
What is your advice for those slow days when the birds really aren't talking a whole bunch and you're not getting a lot of gobbling activity?
It's just go build you a blind, and where or if you've already seen a lot of turkey signs, or you've seen them around the edge of the field, and become a deer hunter. Come in there and spend time out there. And, that's what I was telling y'all earlier on, that my grandson killed a turkey Saturday with me. And we got in a big blind. I cooked some Pop-Tarts and some, took him a Mountain Dew in there. He likes Mountain Dew. I don't know why we give him that, because it gets him geared up, or, give him something to drink, but he took his box call. He's 6 years old. He run this box call. It's something to entertain him. But, guys, we got in that at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we set to 12:15. We called up the same 5 jakes 4 different times. We had a turkey gobble behind us that we heard hens out there, but they didn't show up. They never did show up. We went, got something to eat. We got right back in the blind. It started raining a little bit. We knew we had trail cameras, and the farmer we were hunting with had seen them out in this field. It was a peanut field. He said, they love this field now. They're going to be here. So we got back in it at 4 o'clock. Here comes 2 hens, and then here comes the same 5 jakes. They come in there to our decoys and was milling around out there. And I actually heard a turkey gobble off in the distance. And I told my son-in-law, because my grandson had been using this same box here, and he picked up and run a long series like that. The turkey didn't gobble, like you was talking about your turkey didn't gobble. But we sat there, and it wasn't but just a few minutes. 15 steps, there he was, or maybe 10. But we had some decoys set out, and he broke and went out straight out there to the decoy. Where this box helped call him in, I don't know. but knowing the field, knowing where he was at out there, and so we ended up getting a kill on it. But learn more calls, the more you can practice, and I would say probably one thing that would help you the most as far as a beginner turkey hunter. We touched on it a little bit, but find you a good turkey hunter that you know that's very good, that's been very successful. A lot of times they don't want to take you hunting. You gotta beg them. Hey man, please let me go, because they don't want you to know where they're turkey hunting at. But you tell them, look, I'm not wanting to take a gun, and I promise you, I'm gonna walk real quiet. I'm gonna show you I'm a woodsman. You'll never know I'm in the woods. And when you set up on that turkey, I'm gonna be behind you back there somewhere. I'm gonna cover up or either lay down where they won't see me, but I'm gonna have my ears open and I'm gonna listen to you call. And then I'm gonna ask you, why did you make that call? What was the reason you done a fly down cackle? What was the reason you changed up? Why did you go to that box call? You can learn so much from the guy that's been successful. And guys, that's the best advice I can get. Go with you a real good turkey hunter and just get to know him. Tell him you ain't wanting to kill nothing. You just want to go.
That's great advice. And be respectful of them too.
That's right.
We had a guy on in deer season who he's done just that with deer hunting. His name's Pablo, and he's sought out some of the best deer hunters that we know, and he goes with them. And he'll leave his phone in the truck. He'll turn his phone off just so they know that he's not dropping on X pin.
That's right.
On where they're at.
That's right.
There's a lot to that.
That's it.
Just be respectful about it.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about your current turkey call company, Turkey Man Calls.
Well, what I did was, I actually originally started out, selling my own calls, getting involved with Ben Lee. He helped me. Ben, his girls made my first mouth calls. And then, they were in business, and then I got in business making my own, and I hired and taught some girls how to make turkey calls, and we were selling a bunch of turkey calls at one time. But anyhow, I sold out and went to work with Hunter Specialties, and I worked with them 16 years, and they decided they had some problems going on with first one thing and another. Anyhow, I left them and went with some boys from Down and Dirty out of Kentucky, and but I found out with them boys it was 5 investors in there, but it's the old saying, it was too many chiefs and not enough Indians. And here I am a chief too. I joined them 5, and it was oil and vinegar. It didn't work right there, so we busted up. And then I went and worked with Flexstone and Wild Game out of Louisiana down there, and start helping them design stuff. And then we had some problems there, and that kind of resolved. And I said, I'm an old man, and I think I'm gonna just retire. And I retired, but then I couldn't help it, guys. I had to, even with Down and Dirty, I had my own Eddie Salter line, and then with Flexstone, they sold Eddie Salter stuff too. So I was still involved in making mouth calls and getting them built, box calls. So, they had Eddie Salter line tagged on to theirs. So it was a pretty good transition where I had my table set right there because I was already selling turkey calls, and I talked to my family. I said, look, I want to go back to making custom turkey calls. I said, but I don't want to have to hire a bunch of people, and I'm not after that. If y'all will help me package calls, and I'll get them built and get them packaged up, and I'll be the man that goes out and talks about them, and do TV stuff, do radio or whatever, get some articles written. And I was the first guy that figured out that years ago I could buy an outdoor rider's plane ticket down to Alabama here and carry them hunting, and I got Outdoor Life, all these game and fish. I was taking these riders. And when I first went to work with Hunter Specialties, the guy, one of the owners there, David Ford, said, well, how in the world did you get all them articles written about you? Well, hey, a plane ticket was the cheapest way to go do it. Bring them down here and carry them hunting, or go with them somewhere. And I learned how to get out And the main thing is, I think to help me more, and it goes back to the old barbershop days, is I love people. And I still cut hair in this same chair right here. I got people that I cut hair 50 years ago that I'm cutting their hair right now, some of my buddies. It ain't that I'm trying to make a living, but I enjoy talking with them and learning what they got going on and finding out if they got turkeys on their property still. And, hey, it's a relationship that I think has helped me. And right now, I want to really just kind of sell to the southern states. I want to have me like 150 dealers that I call on around here. And I can handle that without having to reinforce me here to get hire people to help me. And I really enjoy sitting out there. I enjoy just like this box call here. I went to Pennsylvania. A guy had this aluminum lid up there. I run into it in Florida down there. And it was on a long boat paddle deal. And man, it was bad. I told him that was the best sounding box call I ever heard in my life. Well, only bad thing about it was too long and I couldn't carry it with me, and I still use it from time to time. So I designed and developed a short box right here, and with the same lid on it. We built several, and right now I own 2 CNC machines that we cut them out, the pots, and my brother helps me. We build mouth calls, and I got another guy out of Pennsylvania who helps build some. Build about 15,000 mouth calls a year. And I tell you, I know that sounds like a lot, but that ain't a lot. You get out there, some of these guys, they call you up and they'll say, man, send me 20 mouth calls. I don't know what you do with 20 mouth calls, but I send them out anyhow, and I smile on the way sending them out. But, it's enjoyable for me, and it's so rewarding to take like last week I had a lady right there at Mark's Outdoors that couldn't get a sound out of a mouth call. Well, I worked with her for just about 5 minutes, and I had her running a mouth call. Her husband said, I think I'm going to let you call my turkey. You sound better than me. I had her running that mouth call, but to me, it's so rewarding. And then so many times, I've had these guys, hey, I've been in it since 1985. I had these guys, 40-something years ago, that they said they bought videos and they learned how to turkey hunt from watching videos and me talking, doing seminars and different things. But you don't realize how rewarding that is for me, for them to come up and say, man, thank you for getting me started into this turkey hunting. And, I'm going to tell one more story right here that's really, since we talk about that, I run into a guy in Pennsylvania. Of course, this turkey call right here was the best thing I ever. I bought him out and brought it back down to Alabama. It come from Pennsylvania and started building them down here with the rights to build them. But years ago, I was up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, at this big sports show up there. Close to 500,000 people come through. NRA owns it now, and it's one of the biggest shows in the world. And I run into this guy, and he said, I want you to take my dad turkey hunting. He's 82 years old. And he said, can we come to Alabama and go turkey hunting with you? Because, there's so many people hunting up here. We have a hard time doing it. And this was, guys, I'm going to say 15 years ago or more. Might have even been more. But anyhow, I said, yeah, I'll see if I can't, So right over there, I got a hunting camp over there. Got 1,200 acres, a lease over there that I've been had for 20 years. And anyhow, I said, well, come down. I'll take you hunting over there. And so he come down with his 82-year-old daddy. We got here, and we were riding around, and I was showing him the property, and then we kind of looked over, got on a higher hill that looked over in a bottom. At that time, the timber, we had some storms, and they had cut a lot of the timber out, and it had clear-cutted an area joining my field on the other side, and it was a turkey strutting out there. And I said, okay, we got a turkey strutting over here. So I said, no problem, we'll drive around. I said, I know right where to go. We went around, it was a little bowl. We come around there and eased up that bowl and set him against a pine tree. Turkey out there at 250 yards. I said, there he is right there. And I called to him, and I got his gun set up on his knees, and I called to him. he gobbled and turned and faced me. I said, okay. And he looked at me. I called again. Well, here he come. I mean, just some basic hen yelp. And anyhow, he was coming. And I looked down at that gun barrel, and it was kind of doing almost a figure 8 right there. I told that old man, I said, man, slow. I said, hold on. I said, don't be moving that gun barrel. I said, it's just a turkey. Relax. I said, enjoy him coming in there. Well, anyhow, I talked to him, and anytime you can carry a new hunter into the woods, talk to him a little bit, sit side of him, and I was sitting right side of him. I could feel his heartbeat from my shoulder right there, and it was beating, and old turkey was getting closer. When he got in there about 40 yards, I yelped to him with that mouth call. He gobbled right in his face right there, and that old man, I'm telling you, I could just feel him move a little bit. I said, just hold on. And I let him come in there about 10 more steps. He got in about 30 yards. I said, shoot him now. I said, just go ahead. Boom, he shot him, and down he went. I said, just sit right here. I'm going to get up and go get him and bring him back, and I'm going to let you look how pretty he is. And the sun was already, shining on me. It looked like really a pot of gold shining out there. The feathers were glistening and all that through the sunlight. And I got him there and spread it out, this tail fin. I said, boy, ain't he a beautiful turkey. Had about a 12-inch beard, big old long beard. And I looked up, and that old man was crying. I said, man, you don't need to be crying on me now. I said, man, ain't nothing but a turkey right here. He said, yes, son. I said, that's my first turkey. I said, yes, sir. Your son told me that was. And I said, did you enjoy it? And he said, oh, did I enjoy it? And he said, that's why I'm crying, son. I said, well, why is that? He said, I'm 82 years old. And I was thinking, while you was calling that turkey up, I was in a dead thinking about this turkey hunting and how much I'm enjoying it and what a beautiful sight this turkey is. And the thing that bothered me that made me go to crying is, why didn't I start this 40 years ago? Why didn't I start turkey hunting? Because he said, my life's over with, son. He said, it's gone. He said, I won't get to enjoy this much more longer. But if I'd started at 40 years, I could have enjoyed it a many a day. And if you think about it, if you enjoy it like that old man did, you'll know where he's coming from right there.
Man, that puts it in perspective right there, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. Well, Eddie, we've taken a lot of your time today, and I know you got to go hop on a tractor here in a minute. So I wanted to give you one last plug here. Do you have social media and everything?
I do.
People can follow you?
Yeah, you can go to Eddie Salter, gmail.com, 101gmail.com, or pull up The Turkey Man, and you can pull it up. And of course, I've had some trouble with it, but right now we've been that's the social media. You can go to it, and or you can call Eddie Salter. Call me at 251-227-0741. I may be in the turkey woods, but if I ain't, I'll talk to you on the phone.
Okay, awesome. Eddie, be prepared for a ton of phone calls. I'm just going to tell you right now.
I don't mind it. I really don't mind it. I knew that a lot of folks won't do that, but I don't care. I love to talk to my fellow hunter, and if I can help somebody, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, Eddie, I appreciate you letting us do this because I've known of you just being a very people person. Like you're willing to talk to anybody and listen to anybody's stories and stuff like that. And I really appreciate that because there's a lot of people in the space that aren't like that.
Oh,
and I think you're very humble with your time and the time you give to other people, especially at these different events you go to and everything.
Well, if you think about it, and if you enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed it, why wouldn't you want everybody to get in it and have the opportunity to enjoy it like you have? I've hunted turkeys in 33 states, and I set out to do them all, but I don't know if I will. I backed up the last few years, but I've enjoyed hunting in 33 states. I've learned a lot. But let me say this, with all honesty, if you can kill a turkey in Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, or Florida, you can kill one anywhere in the world. You can take that to heart.
Well, Eddie, thank you again for letting us do this podcast.
Hey, man, thank y'all. And hopefully it ain't my last because I still got a bunch of stories, boy, and I got a bunch more I can talk about.
We'll have to do that again. But listeners and viewers out there, appreciate y'all watching and listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a couple of friends. Hopefully you get some really good information out of it. I know I did sitting here and the host here. And Eddie, again, greatly appreciate you letting us do this. But guys, we'll catch you back here on the next episode from the Southern Outdoorsman podcast. And remember, y'all stay Southern.